Hello, hello. It's Josh Anthony with the Objector Reporter, and today I'm going to be interviewing Doug Beck. Mr. Beck, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you for taking your time to interview me.
Thank you. Can we start off with a introduction?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm State Representative Doug Beck. Currently, I represent the 92nd district, which is Afton and Concord Village. I am running for state senate in the first district, which will represent Brentwood, Maplewood, Webster Grove, parts of Kirkwood, Crestwood. Afton is where I live. Melville, Lee May, and Oakville. So it's a pretty big area.
Yeah. Um, okay, so kind of starting off with some recent issues, coronavirus. Recently, we've seen many schools in the St. Louis area give parents the option of either sending their kids back to school or keeping them at home for distance learning. Do you think that this is the best path for schools to take? And in your opinion, which is the better option?
So in St. Louis County, I will say that most of the schools have chosen the virtual path recently. The school district, where I used to be a school board member on Afton School, they just recently chose to go virtually for the first quarter and then reassess. I think that, in my view, is a smart thing to do. If we look at any guidelines to reopening schools, they all are based on one, that the community spread is down low enough. That's not the case here, and that's not the case in Missouri. So I think you're asking for trouble by bringing kids into a situation where a lot of them are going to be together. I mean, we're having a hard time getting adults to social distance. Can we imagine trying to get kids to do it? That's going to be even harder. So I think I do agree that that should be left up to the individual school boards. They're elected by the folks in their communities. But in my opinion, if I had to make that decision myself, I would be going towards virtual schools, simply because of the facts are we're not ready to open schools and not have this become more of a pandemic than it already is. So if that makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you. Um, Now, kind of moving to the recent protesting and the various movements that have been seen making social activism. As we've seen, these movements, like the Black Lives Matter movement, have called for big changes to law enforcement and, in some cases, to even defund the police entirely. Do you think that any changes should be made to the law enforcement system? And if so, what do you think they should be?
So first off, I'm not sure who came up with the term defunding of the police. I think that is it's a negative term, and I am no way of support of that. Anytime you have to explain something what it is, I think it's a wrong terminology for your policy. Do we need to look at our police? Just like we need to look at school districts and look at everything else that we do. Can we make ourselves better? Absolutely, we can. We always need to look at us as a community, as our law enforcement, our first responders, and how can we make ourselves better? I think we always need to be constantly doing that. I think people have their First Amendment rights to protest and do those things. That's what America's been founded on. With all due respect, those things need to happen. I like when they're peaceful protests, that's the best way, I think, to protest. However, I don't tell people how to protest, because sometimes voices need to be heard, and that's their only option sometimes. So, but I think defunding the police is the term is wrong. Do we need to look at things within our police department? Sure. Do we need to look at things within our society? Absolutely.
Thank you. Now, in the past, you have spoken out in support of the Sierra Club, which aims to conserve the natural beauty of the world. How much importance do you think should be given to the conservation of natural parks in this country?
Our national parks, those are a treasure. They've been set aside since I believe it was Theodore Roosevelt started the park system, and it's a great thing. And as a family, we visited them, and I think it's something that we should definitely try to preserve. For sure, it's important. In this state, we have a great park system, and there's some folks that like to tear that apart, but I'm not a part of that. I think the more parks, the better off we are. I think we see that, especially in times like we have now, that where people can go to a park and maybe have some relaxing time, see nature at its finest, and just areas that are preserved naturally. So yes, I'm a huge fan of the parks.
Thank you for that. In your opinion, does the state have enough resources to address some of its major issues? And how would you plan to direct more resources into the areas you represent?
That's a good question. So as far as the state goes, budgets are budgets are your priorities. So you can make a budget fit however you want it to make it fit. If you decide that you want to cut things, that becomes your priority to do that. So in my opinion, working on a school board and seeing the budget at the state level, your budget is your priorities of what you feel that is important. One of the things I feel is important is public education. I think there should be more money going into public education, and that also means into the St. Louis area, and especially into the area I represent. Currently, right now, the school districts are probably close to 90% in this school district, in the Senate district, are probably close to 90% locally funded. Now every school is a little different. So that means all our money is coming from property taxes and things here in the area, where we could actually have more state money coming into the districts, which would lower people's property taxes, especially our elderly folks that are on fixed incomes and things of that nature. So I would like to see those resources coming back here. I would also like to see more of our infrastructure and our highway monies and things like that coming back into St. Louis. I think it's important that we are the economic engine of the state, that we keep this area strong and vibrant.
Thank you for that. That's about it. And we wish you luck in the coming days. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
No problem.
All right.